Subnautica 2 has just launched, introducing a new planet called Zazura. Unknown Worlds just released an early access on May 14th. The amazing sound design is provided by a team called Power Up Audio, led by creative director Kevin Regimi. I actually met Kevin Regimi once at the Game Audio meetup that is happening at Gamescom, which is hosted by Victor Heim, a friend of mine who also was on my podcast. If you want, you can watch the episode here. So it was really nice to meet him at Gamescom, and this also shows you that the game audio community is really accessible. You can meet people, and if you go to those conferences and to the meetups, you can actually connect deeply and build relationships with the people in the industry. If you want to come to Gamescom 2026, please mark in your calendar the Saturday of Gamescom, because I'm hosting a game audio barbecue here in my garden next to my studio. You are most welcome. And now I'm gonna talk about the sound of Subnautica 1 in this video, and some things that I realized that could maybe improve the gameplay a little bit. And with that, I go into basic concepts of game audio, such as loops versus one-shots. And we also talk about hydrophones and what you should consider when you're gonna use them on a Foley stage. Let's go! Nice and clear. Very rewarding. It's this stone textures here and glassy sounds. Also nice with the reverb. I can even feel it in the back. In my 5 years at Ubisoft, I worked on Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora, and I designed the harvesting system of that game together with implementation guru David Lockhart Guerrero, who I actually kind of brought into the company because he applied as a Foley intern, and I saw his talent in overall sound design, and then I recommended him for another opening that came later. And supervisor Mattia Celetto, who is really a humbling guy to all of us sound designers because he's just simply so amazing. My process on the harvesting system on Avatar was first off recording a ton of sounds from all organic materials like fruit, veggies, trees, and all the things that I could bring into the studio, recorded with contact mics and high frequency mics. And from that I built a library, and then I started to design the sounds. Now, why do I care about Subnautica? Simply because it's kind of the same thing in a different world. You are harvesting in that game a lot of materials, but here it's more stone based. Pretty similar to Avatar, just different materials. Yeah, this is amazing stuff. And I don't want to come up with new recordings here because this is pretty on point. Now let's move on to the drilling sounds. Clearly a loop going on. And then you have these things break away, which is a one-shot event. Here. Another one. Done. So the question is there a system behind it that gives you a good harvest or a bad harvest? That was the case in Avatar, so we had to come up with different end result sounds in 3 different stages: bad harvest, medium harvest, and good harvest. And here the one-shots, they haven't been covered, so when something breaks away, that is not really audible. And I want to record something now and then play it again with this additional one shot. Let's do it. Before we perform the one-shot sounds of the breaking away of the rocks when you successfully drilled, I want to record with you a couple of loops as well. And I have a different setup here. One is the stone, let's say, just on an insulated rubber mat, and it sounds like that. I have my wood surface here with the position where the most low end is happening, and that sounds like this. To my ears, that sounds already underwater. And then the next thing is, when you want to perform those loops, you have to perform this consistency. So here it is difficult because I have this kind of hill here on this rock, and therefore it always gets like duck, and that repetition we don't want. So I have to find a way to perform this so that it is consistent. And usually you can perform in eighths. Let's do this actually in sync to the picture. Okay, now with the one shots. So here you could see the difference between using a resonance chamber and using the sounds without a resonance chamber. And then when it comes to those one-shot events, I made some impacts like that. And here you have to consider that each variation that you do should sound out of the same world, but with a slight difference within it. Let's check our recordings. I put it already in sync to the picture. Let's have a look what it actually is that is playing. First the dark loop, the bright loop, and then dark one shot, and bright one shot. Only adjustment was volume, nothing else. I'm gonna play a little bit of the game without it, and then it drops in. What do you think? Let's listen again. All right, I think it was worth it. Like the 5-minute recording already did something to it. This is, of course, something I came up with really quickly. Maybe a bit too much room on the recording. I deliberately did that, but to deliver that, I would record again a bit closer. Not very close, but a bit closer. Having said that, let's move on. Before we finally check out the footsteps, let's have a look at the website of Unknown Worlds, because there's a blog post about the usage of a hydrophone for the first game. Let's have a listen how that sounds. What did you notice? Did it sound like underwater worlds that you know? Not really. There's this constant clicking going on and all these other noises that we are not used to hear when we talk about underwater audio. So there you go. There's a lot of work to do to clean up these recordings and to make use of it in a meaningful way. There's another thing that you have to consider when you use a hydrophone in a Foley stage. To me, it happened when I used an ambient hydrophone in the studio, that over time there was a kind of hum and hiss developing into the signal, coming up stronger and stronger. And I was wondering, like, what's going on? Something wrong with the preamp? No, it's actually the hydrophone. Let me read a sentence to sum that up in order that you understand what's going on here. A hydrophone in a room is basically a tuned antenna for the building's EMI, with a piezo element that has no way to bleed off accumulating charge. So the longer you record, the more hum, hiss and drift stack up. So now you know, when you record with a hydrophone indoors, you have to be aware that this hum and hiss will accumulate over time. And to avoid that, you can use a little bit of high cut, and you can keep your recordings short and then unplug and replug so that this whole thing can start from scratch. Now let's go listen to the footsteps.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
What do you think? You've seen this massive robot that the player is getting into. So you need this kind of mechanical robot character, kind of heavy metal impact for the footsteps. I get that. To me, the sound is a bit too bulky to have it over and over played back throughout the game. So I would wonder, how can we make this sound a bit more smooth, more soothing to the ear? I'm aware that we need this kind of heavy metal character. We cannot completely get rid of that, but how to make it a bit blend into the world, or just have it less noticed, or maybe embedded a bit more into the ground of the sea. Let me try and record some sounds that we can play then together with the original game and see if I can make an improvement here. And please let me know what you think in the comments. By the way, all the sounds that are recorded you can download. Link is in the description. Okay, let's try to get some dirt texture into the footsteps to blend it a bit more into the world. I used a bit of off-axis technique here in order to reduce transients, and I have additional filtering going on now. So let's give that a try. That was difficult to be in sync. I'm gonna sync that up real quick and then we can listen to it again.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
What do you think? I think it helps me to get a bit more grounded. Of course, in terms of mixing, it's still too bright. We can dampen it a little bit more and bring it a bit more to the floor. If that makes sense. What do you think? Do you have ideas how to further enhance the player experience in that game with audio? Was it worth it that I recorded those sounds and put it underneath that already extremely great sound design? Let me know in the comments. Everyone who's coming to Gamescom in 2026, you are invited to my game audio barbecue, which is happening on a Saturday. If you want to join, just DM me on Instagram and I'll send you the details. If you want the sounds that I recorded, link is in the description, free for you to download. And everyone who's interested in real guidance on your Foley journey and having me as your mentor inside a community with others, consider joining the Foley Guild. See you in one of the next videos. Peace, the Foley teacher.